Howdy, I'm just getting started with my new computerized France44 scenario, as usual, built with the pretty much standard Europa rules, maps, counters, charts, all that sort of thing. In this case, more specifically, using second front as the basis for France44. Whenever I build a new scenario, pretty much the first thing I have to do is take care of the maps and get them ready to go. Fortunately, at this point, I think I have all the Europa maps scanned at pretty good resolutions. So I just need to assemble the appropriate ones and crop them down to the size that I want to use. There's no sense in having a whole lot of excess when I'm working on a specific scenario. I can crop out the area that's not really needed at all. And then I have to take care of getting the information ready to go kind of on a hex by hex and hexide by hexide basis. I did some calculations the other day. I'd never really thought about it before. So on any individual Europa map sheet, I think there are 1,683 hexes. There are roughly 24 maps in Europa, and that kind of excludes some overlap. There's a rough estimate, say 24 maps, which means we're talking about in the neighborhood of 40,000 hexes. And of course, each hex has 6 hex sides, so we're talking about in the neighborhood of 240,000 hex sides. And although those are shared among hexes, so we're really talking about, I think, 120,000 unique hex sides. So roughly 40,000 hexes, roughly 120,000 hex sides. And as you know from playing the game, when you're moving or planning your moves or counting out supply lines or whatever, you have to take into account everything that's going on in each individual hex and hex side. Is it a clear hex, rough terrain, mountains, something more unusual like wooded intermittent lake hex? And the same goes for hex sides. Is there a river, a major river? Is there escarpment? And if there's escarpment, which side is the upside and which side is the downside? Well, all that kind of data that you basically hold in your head when you're playing an Europa game face-to-face with paper and cardboard, all of that information needs to go into the data set that controls movement and combat also in my computerized version. So at this point, I've done an awful lot of Europa, hex by hex, hexide by hexide, in a pretty tedious process, but it's been spread out over the years. So I have, I would say, in the neighborhood of, a lot. Let's put it that way. A lot of the Europa area, not counting Western Desert, not counting Scandinavia. There's still a few gaps here and there, but I've done an awful lot of it. And the process that I use is I built a crude but quite functional input system so that I can sit here and click on individual hexes and then manually input what's happening in that hex and 3 of the hex sides for that hex and save it and then move on to the next one. And then at whatever point I want, when I get tired of doing it, I can spit out the data that I've just entered and manually review it if I want, and then add it to the database of all of the hexes and all the hex sides. So that's what I'm doing right now for France44. I was pretty fortunate for France44 because having already done a D-Day scenario, a Battle of the Bulge scenario, a Blitz 40 invasion of France in the Low Countries scenario, and an Anvil Dragoon scenario. So I have the bulk of France and neighboring regions of Italy, Switzerland, Germany, Belgium, Netherlands, Luxembourg, all that stuff already done. So I was able to simply import the data set for an awful lot of these hexes into France44. But I still do have some chunks of France that I haven't done, and so I'm trying to get that taken care of right now. And here's how I do it. If anyone is interested, this is just a quick look of how it all works. So I'll pick a hex here, and we'll try this one, and bring it right up. And we can see that because I have turned on the terrain editor mode in my editing functions, it, instead of doing the usual bit about moving units around, it says, oh, okay, let's do some terrain editing. And we can see that I have clicked on hex 5139. Now this is one that I've already done, so it points out that it has loaded the data that's on file. No load on that one, but that's okay because it's all clear. And while I'm at this, I'm going to go and I have a few units on the map. I'm just going to get them out of the way in case we run into any of those. So we can see data entry is here. This is stuff that has already been done, so it can remind me of what codes I've been putting in for France44. I can check and see a list of unit types. So this is, I think, pretty much complete. There are a lot of different kinds of hexes and hexsides, and there's a code for each thing. I can show all the hexes that I've already entered, and so here they're highlighted in pink. You can see I've left a little gap in here. In fact, we'll fiddle around with that. I can find hexes that I haven't entered yet, and then when I'm ready, I can show the terrain data in case I want to manually review it before I add it to the data set and save it for game purposes. So let's look in here. Let's click on, whoops, clicked on the wrong one. I want to click here on show these. So we've got this gap in here, and let's start here. And this hex is represented here, and we'll put in RO, meaning that is a rough terrain hex. It's not on the coast, there are no fortifications. The nation, I've set the default to France, so it's coded FR. The current owner, X for axis, and there's no particular landmark in there. And now we check the three hex sides here. We check the northeast, the northwest, and the due west hex sides to see if there's anything going on. And if we look, nothing there, and there. At the moment, I'm not worried about the French military district, so we'll set that aside. We'll just ignore those. So now I have in data for this hex and its three hex sides that we're worried about. There was not much to that. It was an easy one, so we'll save it. We'll scoot on over here, and once again, we have some rough terrain. We look at the hex sides, nothing there. We save that. You get the idea that this is a pretty tedious task, but not terribly different. Okay, nothing. Now here we have river. Sometimes there's a fortification, sometimes there's a transportation line crossing that hex side, and we would put that in. Note that for transportation lines, railroads, limited railroads, roads, we don't actually add that to the hex itself because we want to know what hex side it crosses so that we can keep track of it. So we'll save that. If I get busy talking and forget whether I saved it or not, I can look and it says, okay, loaded. That means that it did load the data from the data set that I'm currently saving, so it's okay. If I hit save again, it just saves the same thing. I could change it. I could put in major river and save it, but that's not right. So we'll go back to a regular river. We can go over here. We have clear terrain, which is the default. And here we've got river and nothing on that hex side. So we'll save it. We run over to here. And now I can see that I've already done this hex. I've already done the northeast hex side. There's nothing there. It's just clear, so it doesn't matter that it doesn't load because the default is there's nothing on that hex side. it's clear. So we can leave those alone. We'll save that. If we run back in here, probably to this hex is the next place to go. We'll put in a mountain there and save that. Go in here. So I know this is really exciting. People are going to watch this video over and over again. But this is kind of what I do. This is what I have to do to build a data set. And fortunately, I've reached the point where there are not too many more, only a few thousand more hexes and hexides to go. So we have a river in there. We have nothing there, nothing there. And let's back up. We have a landmark. And I can't quite read that, but fortunately, I can look over here. I have the real map beside me. And I can put in the landmark, which doesn't really do anything at all. It has no impact whatsoever on movement or combat, but it's just useful to have the landmark on there. So we'll save that. Let's check again to see what we've entered. So let's go ahead and do one more. We'll do this as rough. We have nothing on any of the hex sides. We'll save that. So that was pretty quick and simple. As you can see, not too exciting, not something I really look forward to doing, but I feel good that over the years, and this really has been probably at least 5 years I've been working on this, little by little, I have been putting in data for all the hexes and all the Europa maps, and I'm getting pretty close to the end. I'm feeling good about it. Once I finish, I'll be able to import that data into any scenario. So no matter where I decide to set up a scenario on any of the Europa maps, I can say, bring up that data set that I've already put together. So I'm just going to say, click this, show me what we've got here. I can manually review that, and then when I'm ready, I can save it into the data set. And, you know, I think probably another week or two, depending on how things go around here, I should have enough time to finish doing this data entry, and then I'll be able to move on to the next part of building the computerized France44 scenario. So there's the exciting story of how we get information about terrain and infrastructure from the paper Europa maps into the data set for use in my computerized Europa system. I hope you found that extremely exciting and that you will be back again soon for some more interesting stuff. Take care.